There is a moment, and if you have ever watched Cristiano Ronaldo walk into a room, you have seen it where everything about the man communicates something before he even opens his mouth. The posture, the outfit, the way he carries himself like someone who has spent his entire life being watched and decided at some point to give people something worth watching. And then your eye drifts down to his wrist, and suddenly, whatever you were thinking about disappears. Because sitting on that wrist is not just a watch, it is a statement, it is a philosophy. It is a piece of engineering so extreme, so deliberately over the top, that it almost feels like a challenge. Like he is asking you, can you even comprehend what you are looking at? Today, we are going to answer that question. We are going to go piece by piece through Cristiano Ronaldo's Jacob & Co. Watch collection, a collection that, when you add up every single timepiece, crosses the $7 million mark with ease. And we are not just going to list prices. We are going to talk about what these watches actually are, what it takes to make them, why Jacob & Co. keeps building things that most of the watch industry considers borderline impossible, and why Ronaldo, a man who could wear literally anything, keeps coming back to this one brand again and again. So let us start at the beginning. Let us start with Jacob & Co. itself, because without understanding the brand, you cannot truly understand why these watches cost what they cost. Jacob & Co. was founded by Jacob Arabo, a jeweler who immigrated from Uzbekistan to New York City in the early 1980s. He started working with diamonds. He started working with rappers and athletes and entertainers who wanted jewelry that no one else was making. And eventually, he made his way into watchmaking not because the world needed another watch brand, but because he saw something that the traditional Swiss houses were not doing. He saw that the people who bought the most expensive things in the world also wanted those things to be visually shocking. Not just technically impressive, not just historically prestigious, shocking, the kind of thing that makes you stop mid-sentence. Jacob & Co. was built for those people, and Cristiano Ronaldo is perhaps the most perfect customer that brand could have ever imagined. Now, let us get into the collection. The first watch we need to talk about is the Caviar Tourbillon in blue sapphires. $1.2 million, and the moment you see this watch, you understand immediately that the word subtle was never part of the conversation. The entire case, the entire dial, every visible surface of this timepiece is covered in blue sapphires. Not decorated with sapphires. Covered, the stones are set so densely, in a technique Jacob & Co. calls the caviar setting, because the stones sit together like tiny spheres of caviar on a dish that from certain angles, the watch almost appears to glow from within. At the center of that sea of blue sits a flying tourbillon. A tourbillon, for those who are not yet familiar, is one of the most complex mechanisms in all of mechanical watchmaking. It was invented in the late 1700s to counteract the effect of gravity on a pocket watch's accuracy. In a wristwatch, it is almost entirely decorative at this point. But that is exactly the point. When you are spending $1.2 million on a watch, you are not buying accuracy. You are buying mastery. You are buying the proof that human hands can construct something this small, this intricate, this perfect. And then they buried that tourbillon under a waterfall of blue sapphires, because why wouldn't they? The next piece in Ronaldo's collection is the one that carries his name directly. The Jacob & Co. Bugatti Chiron CR7. $1 million. This watch came about through one of the most interesting collaborations in recent luxury history. Jacob & Co. partnered with Bugatti, the French hypercar manufacturer, to create a watch that functions almost like a tiny engine on your wrist. The Bugatti Chiron watch houses a movement that actually replicates the internal combustion engine. There are tiny pistons. There are spinning components that mimic a working motor. You look at it and you are watching something move, something breathe, something perform. And then Jacob & Co. took that already extraordinary piece and worked with Ronaldo to create the CR7 edition. The case is made from sapphire crystal, pure, transparent, so that you can see every single component moving from every angle. There is nothing hidden. There is nothing left to the imagination. It is watchmaking as performance, and it suits its owner perfectly. Then comes the Bugatti Chiron Tourbillon. $1.6 million. This is the most expensive Bugatti collaboration piece in Ronaldo's collection, and arguably the most visually dramatic watch he owns. Where the CR7 edition leans into the transparency of sapphire crystal, the tourbillon version leans into heat, into fire. The case is finished in deep crimson red with rose gold accents, and it houses not just the miniature engine complication, but a full tourbillon as well. Two of the most complex things a watchmaker can do, combined inside a case that looks like it was pulled directly from the engine bay of a Chiron hypercar. If you put this watch on a table next to a Bugatti Chiron, the design language would match almost perfectly. That is not an accident. That is an extraordinary amount of design work, engineering collaboration, and shared obsession with the idea that performance and beauty are not opposites, they are the same thing expressed in different materials. Moving along, we arrive at the Royal Baguette, $1.2 million. And here is where Jacob & Co. shows a different side of themselves, not the side obsessed with mechanical drama and miniature engines, but the side that came from diamonds, from jewelry. The Royal Baguette is, in the most literal sense, a diamond watch. Every surface, every link of the bracelet, every millimeter of the case, covered in baguette-cut diamonds, that precise, rectangular cut that catches light in long, clean flashes rather than the scattered sparkle of a round brilliant. When Ronaldo wears this piece, it does not look like a machine. It looks like ice. It looks like someone liquefied a diamond and poured it into the shape of a wristwatch. The movement inside is almost secondary to the visual experience. This is Jacob Arabeau, the jeweler, at his absolute peak, reminding you that before he was a watchmaker, he was the man who put diamonds on people who changed culture. The fifth watch in this collection is the Caviar Tourbillon in Sapphires, $957,000. The Sapphire is a green garnet, a stone that is in many ways rarer than an emerald of equivalent quality, though it does not yet carry the same cultural weight. Jacob & Co. chose it here, and the result is a watch that feels alive in a way that the blue sapphire version does not. Where blue is cool and precise, green is organic. The Sapphires give the watch a richness, a depth, a feeling like you are looking into something that grows rather than something that was manufactured. The tourbillon floats at the center, and the stones press in around it from every side, and the overall impression is of something natural being contained by something mechanical. It is a remarkable piece of design thinking, even if it arrived packaged as a nearly $1 million watch. And then we reach the final watch. The one that, if you know anything about Jacob & Co., you probably already suspected was going to appear. The twin-turbo Furious Baguette, $1.4 million. The twin-turbo Furious is Jacob & Co.'s flagship complication. It houses not one but two flying tourbillons spinning simultaneously, visible through the open work dial. The case is wide dramatically, almost aggressively wide, and covered in baguette diamonds that run across the entire surface. The movement has a triple-axis configuration, meaning the tourbillons rotate on three separate planes, counteracting gravity from every possible direction. It is, from a purely mechanical standpoint, one of the most complex things that exists on a human wrist. And Jacob & Co. then went ahead and set the whole thing in diamonds, because technical mastery alone was apparently not enough of a statement. When Ronaldo wears this watch, he is carrying on his wrist something that took thousands of hours to design, engineer, and assemble, something that less than a handful of people in the world are qualified to build. Something that most people will never see in person in their entire lives. Which brings us to the number, $7,357,000. That is what this collection costs when you line up all 6 pieces and add them together. $7 million in watches. And it would be easy, at this point, to say something dismissive. To say it is excessive, or absurd, or that no watch is worth that amount of money. But that would be missing the point entirely. Because what Ronaldo has assembled here is not just a watch collection. It is a document. It is a record of what human beings can build when they decide that limits are optional. Every single piece in this collection represents a team of people engineers, gemologists, watchmakers, designers who looked at the boundaries of what was possible and decided to work just past them. The fact that those pieces end up on the wrist of the most decorated footballer in history feels less like coincidence and more like inevitability. Because Cristiano Ronaldo has built his entire career on the same principle. He has never accepted what was considered sufficient. He has never trained at the level that was expected. He has never looked at the record and thought, That is enough. And so of course his watches are built by a brand that thinks the same way. Of course, every piece he chooses pushes into territory that most people would consider unreasonable. Of course his collection totals over $7 million. Because for someone who has given everything to become the greatest, spending $1 million on a watch that contains a miniature working engine is not extravagance. It is resonance. It is recognition. It is one master of their craft acknowledging another. And that is the real story of Cristiano Ronaldo's Jacob & Co. collection, not the price. Not the diamonds, not even the tourbillons spinning on 3 axes inside cases wrapped in precious stones. The story is that excellence calls to excellence, that when you reach a certain level in any field, you begin to see the same level of commitment in unexpected places. And you honor it by wearing it on your wrist, every single day, for the world to see. If you made it this far, drop a comment and tell me which watch from this collection is your favorite. And if you want to see more breakdowns like this one, more stories about the watches, the cars, the lives of the people who collect them, make sure you are subscribed. Because we are just getting started.